Welcome back to the Creatively Curious podcast. I'm your host, Ashley Walter. Today, I'm going to be talking about energy conservation, which is a term and I guess tool that I use as an occupational therapist with patients in various settings. And I've also actually used it with coaching clients because lots of times when we get thrown back into square one, which, if you're not sure what that means, I did an episode explaining what square one is. So that could be like a surgery or a divorce or moving across the country, then we find ourselves feeling a lot of fatigue. And so, what energy conservation is a way of preserving and saving and maintaining our energy. So, from a physiological perspective, when you have a surgery, it will mean something a little bit different than if you've moved across the country, but the principles are the same. You're fatigued, you're more tired, and there's five kind of P's, we call them, to energy conservation, which I'll go over in a little bit. But basically, why do you feel so tired after, let's say, a surgery or a divorce or like a big change in your life? So with a surgery, physiologically, your cells are needing to heal. That could even be after a birth, right? So cells are healing, that takes energy. Your bones are healing, that takes energy. Lots of times you won't be as active. So you're sedentary, you're in a hospital bed, you're resting. You might not be able to put any weight through whatever limb it is that you've injured. And so when we do decrease our activities, then generally we will find ourselves a bit more fatigued. Uh, Physically, you might be doing rehab, so then you're working muscles that haven't been worked in a while. You need more energy, maybe to use crutches or a wheelchair. And then pain. If you have physical pain, then that affects your energy levels as well. Psychologically, so, being in a hospital, having a surgery, all of that can be overwhelming, which can lead to fatigue, different environments than home. So maybe a rehab hospital, the hospital itself, you're going to doctor's appointments, that can be difficult. You might be having like financial issues or legal issues, and then just pain, sort of the mental burden of pain can be overwhelming as well. And so to think about it after like a big change, you wouldn't necessarily have the physical healing that goes along with a surgery, but you are kind of mending your changed situation, and even after a birth, like your life is totally different now that you would be physically healing from as well. But like a divorce is more of that emotional healing that you're doing, which also takes energy. So, symptoms of fatigue, you will be tired. You might have pain, as I mentioned, decreased concentration, frustration or irritability, weariness. You might shake or tremble. You could have some heavy perspiration, shortness of breath, and weakness all around. That's sort of more, I guess, physical symptoms. And also, I found at the cancer hospital that I've worked at that with cancer treatments and chemo, there's a huge, huge amount of fatigue that goes along with doing those treatments as well. And people are surprised by how long it sticks around and how fatigued they are. And, it's really important to remember to be basically just gentle with yourself and kind to yourself. We want to, even people who have surgery want to just jump right back and be where they were at before surgery or before treatments or before their diagnosis. And you aren't the same. You're different. So you've gone back into that square one. You're going through that change cycle, kind of going into the chrysalis like the caterpillar, melting down, creating yourself into some new version like the butterfly. And, there's lots of work that goes into that stage. And then when you come out of it, you are different. And that fatigue can stick around for a while. So what is energy conservation? So I kind of touched on that a little bit. So it's saving your energy, which is so important. And it's achieved by performing everyday activities and tasks in ways that are different that can save your energy. And I'll go over those in a little bit. Energy conservation helps keep energy levels. Now, I don't know if I'd say high, but keeps your energy levels to a place where you can do the important things that you want to do during the day, which might involve rehab, but it might also just involve, helping your kids, getting to work, moving through your day as best as possible. And energy conservation can help protect joints and prevent overexertion, which can impact healing and progress. And research has shown that in populations that experience fatigue, using energy conservation principles can significantly reduce fatigue. It can increase self-confidence and the feeling of success. It can improve quality of life, can increase the ability to engage in physical activity, and you're decreasing the energy required for specific daily activities, so you're not as drained at the end of your day. So, how do we make changes? You can educate yourself, which is what this podcast hopefully is helping you do. You can give this information to family and friends so that they understand what energy conservation is and how they can support you. You can seek support from family and friends, and we'll go over that. And potentially accessing support from a healthcare professional who understands what energy conservation is and how to support you in that. So the general principles are the 5 P's. So pacing, positioning, planning, prioritizing, and problem solving. And I'll go over each one. So pacing is work at an appropriate pace, so an appropriate speed, and take frequent rest breaks. So whatever that is for you, it's going to be different for each person. But one thing I have found is that people want to just muster through and not take the breaks, but it's really important when you're healing your physical body, when you're healing your heart, to incorporate breaks. And even for all of us, if we're not healing certain aspects, rest is important because then it allows us to carry on with other things that we need to do with greater energy. If I'm being an honest, open person, I will admit I did just have a lay down. I laid down for about 20 minutes, listened to a meditation, and I love doing that in the afternoon because I feel so much more energized and rejuvenated afterwards instead of just pushing through. So more about pacing, allow time for unexpected breaks. So even if you've scheduled breaks into your day, you might need to sit down and have a glass of water, maybe eat something, take some breaths before you carry on. And that's okay. And to not judge that as somehow you're, not as strong, or that those breaks are important and necessary for your healing and your recovery. Alternate between heavy or more tiring activities and lighter or easier activities. And so I'll generally be talking about things that you need to do at home, versus workplace. So heavy activities at home could be something like vacuuming or even cleaning a bathroom, versus lighter could be like dusting or even some simple meal prep. And I'll move on to positioning. So, changing positions and weight shifting can reduce energy needed and help with minimizing fatigue. And that could be as simple as sitting down to do your activities. So, lots of times I'll recommend that in the kitchen. If people are doing meal prep, to sit when they're doing that meal prep, or to sit if you're folding laundry, to sit in the shower instead of stand, because sitting will take less energy than standing. Arrange your work areas at a comfortable height. So, not reaching far out around you or above you or below to the ground, but having things at a comfortable height for where you're sitting at. Have tools and supplies within comfortable reach and eliminate unnecessary movements. So, not moving around too much within the kitchen or within your bedroom to um, get ready. And positioning can be like what I mentioned. So, reaching above your head, it is a harder movement than reaching from shoulder to torso, let's say, and reaching from, your hips down to the ground is harder than reaching from your shoulders to your hips or your waist. So, keeping that in mind. The next P is planning. So, create a daily and weekly schedule. Plan what you can do yourself and what you need help with, and schedule people to help you, family, friends, whether that's somebody that you need to pay, like hire some help. Allow for flexibility within your schedule for unexpected rest breaks, as I mentioned, and reduce the activity to its simplest form. So, just break up larger tasks into smaller pieces and plan more difficult or the difficult tasks or the heavy work when you know that you have more energy. So lots of times people will feel more energized in the morning. So planning for those activities in the morning that are heavier or more difficult, and easier, lighter activities in the afternoon. And also take a look at what you can eliminate completely. So, you know, if you've always done a certain thing, it doesn't mean that you have to continue doing that certain thing. Some things, like, for instance, a big thing I like to mention is ironing. I do not iron. I refuse to iron. It is like a waste of my time and my energy, and so I will not do it. I try not to buy clothes that require ironing. Luckily, my husband, I don't know if he enjoys ironing, but he will iron. I don't even know if I have anything that requires ironing now, but to me, ironing is a waste of time. So just don't do it. And there's an example in some of the OT documents that I have that talks about ironing sheets. If you are ironing your sheets, people, stop ironing them. Stop it. You can do other things. Uh, and that reminds me of something that I talk about with life coaching clients, is bag it, barter it, better it. So bag it is eliminate it. There's probably lots of things that you think you have to do that you really don't need to do. Barter it would be having somebody help you with that, whether it's a friend or family member, or hiring it done. And then better it is kind of what we're talking about. So, can you sit to do that activity? Is listening to classical music or instrumental music calming to you? And can that help you get through whatever activity you need to do? The next P is prioritizing. So, determine which activities are important for you to complete, and delegate tasks that can be done by someone else. So I kind of talked about that. Balance work or the tasks that you feel like you need to do around the house with fun. Doing things you enjoy can increase your energy levels. And I found that a lot with patients at the cancer hospital, that it's almost like because there's so many treatments, because they're so fatigued, that they let go of doing those things that were really enjoyable to them and really meaningful to them. And lots of times if we delegate or delete those activities that we really don't want to do and replace them with something that is enjoyable, then we do have more energy. And one example I can think of is a man that came in who was just feeling like super fatigued and super drained. And he had gone back to work and he did have a pretty physically intensive job, but he wasn't really doing any like hobbies or any things he was passionate about outside of work. He did have a family. And I developed, I created uh, an interest checklist that was specific to I guess for me. So I took a interest checklist. It's not like I created the interest checklist, but I created one that would work for the environment that I was working in. And so what that is just a list of a whole bunch of different things that people might find interesting to do. They can find some enjoyment in doing those things, or things that they used to do that they don't do anymore that they'd like to get back into, or even new things that they want to try. And so I would use that a lot where people couldn't even really think of something fun that they wanted to do. And so with this gentleman, he used to do a lot of improv acting, and that was one of the little tick boxes. So he ticked that off, and then he talked about how he used to do that and how much he would love doing that. And so we talked about how he could incorporate that into his life now. And like in my session with him, his energy, I could feel it, that he was feeling excited about something, and I could feel the energy that he had for that. So that's a really important piece too, is to look at maybe things that you used to love doing that you don't do anymore, that you had to give up because of an injury or because of treatment or because of kids or whatever it is, and that actually would give you energy now if you did those things. And I will put a link to the interest checklist in the show notes and potentially on my website, so that if that's something that you're interested in checking out, 4 ideas of things that you could do that might spark some energy for you, then I will link to that. The next P is problem solving. So, what is the problem that you're having? What are some alternative approaches? And, using these P's to help develop strategies when a problem arises due to fatigue. So, generally, I find the problem is that people just don't have energy to really do anything. And then they end up not doing much at all. And I know for the cancer patients, it was recommended actually that they increase the physical activity that they do, because that actually can help with their fatigue. So you think, oh, I'm feeling a lot of fatigue, then I should rest. But actually the opposite is true. Now it's a fine line. So you don't want to do too much that you're so tired that you can't do anything, but you want to slowly increase your physical activity. And that could even just be walking, so that your your body, your muscles are used to getting worked, and that actually that increases, and that we have the research to support that increases your energy levels. So you don't want to just sit around and not do anything unless you have, precautions where you're not allowed to weight bear and stuff like that. That's a little bit different. But when you've been cleared for those things, you've been cleared to do some physical activity, that is really important in supporting your mental health, supporting your physical health. So And then adaptive techniques. So OTs love our adaptive devices. So anything that can help reduce your energy. So like thinking about in the kitchen, instead of using a manual can opener, we'll recommend doing a electric can opener instead of cooking lots of different courses of meals, then just do simple meals. Use like a slow cooker, or I know people like to use their air fryers now. Use frozen vegetables instead of having to cut up a bunch of vegetables and then cook them. You'll just steam your frozen vegetables. Anything that's easy. Now, a lot of packaged foods and freezer meals and things like that have a lot of sodium. But if that's saving your energy, then that's something that would be helpful to you. And I know since having kids, I try to do the simplest meals I can. And we do eat a lot of frozen vegetables because it's easy just to heat them up. And I don't, I guess it depends on the vegetable, but lots of vegetables actually taste really good from frozen. And, throwing something like a protein in the oven and just cooking it that way is really easy for me. So, looking where you can basically just simplify, and even in the kitchen, in your closet, in your bathroom, is to make sure you don't have too much stuff, because that is also a way that can cause a lot of like energy drainage when you're just staring at a whole bunch of stuff and you can't really find what you need or what you want. So really simplifying all of those areas, and so then it's easy for you to find what you want in your drawer, and there's not that kind of added energy of like the clutter, the mental energy of all of that, having to go through that. Now, hopefully, that is what your house looks like before you have your surgery. But if not, I mean, that can be something that you go through one drawer at a time, where you take things out and donate them, or, you maybe get rid of things, and simplifying your cupboards and your drawers and your closets can be really, really helpful for energy conservation. And one thing that I also like to do, which I know people like to make fun of me for, but I alphabetize my spices. I have them in similar sized jars and I have them labeled, and I alphabetize them. And why do I do that? Because it saves me time and energy. I know exactly where my spices are because they're in order, alphabetically, and I, I don't have to waste time looking for them. My mother has a cupboard that is not organized. It's like all over the place, and no offense, mom, but all different sizes of jars, and I can never find anything in there. And I don't know. I don't know how people do it without alphabetizing the spice jar. So there's a task that you can add to your list if you so choose. Let's see, having a seat in the bathtub or your shower can be really helpful to conserve your energy. So sitting in the kitchen, I think I mentioned that when you're prepping, using a tray, if you have a walker, using a tray on your walker so you can put things on the tray and then transport them that way on your walker. But sitting wherever you can be a really good way of saving energy for other tasks that you have. Using a backpack, if you need to go downstairs and you're able to go downstairs to laundry or upstairs to laundry, you can use a backpack to put your laundry in and take it up instead of having to carry a basket up or downstairs. That can be really helpful. using a long handled reacher to grab items that have fallen down instead of having to bend or squat down. Um, Using, let's see, like an apron. I mean, lots of times people have pockets, so you can put things in your pockets, but using an apron around the house so that you can tuck things in the pockets of the apron can be helpful. Uh, Going back to the bathroom, using like a long handled brush or sponge for cleaning yourself. Grab bars, obviously. We moved from a house that did have grab bars in the around the bathtub, and they were handy even just for me. I loved grabbing onto the grab bar to get in and out of the bathtub. I felt so safe doing that. And then, like, if I ever had a bath in there, loved the grab bar to get myself out. Like, it was just, I mean, I almost feel like we should just automatically install those into around showers and bathtubs, but that could just be my OT bias. Obviously, a non-slip rubber mat if you have a slippery bathtub. Keep your towels close to the shower or bath so that you're not having to reach very far or walk very far. And then actually sitting too, like if you're able to sit in the bathroom for when you're getting ready, doing your hair, brushing your teeth, doing your makeup, shaving, sitting wherever you can. Uh, OTs, because I'm an OT, we like our equipment for people in the bathroom, but bars wherever you can put them around the shower, around the toilets. A raised toilet seat can be helpful for people to get off the toilet. It's easier to get off the toilet. I have a colleague who recommends a bidet because then you're not even having to wipe, which can be challenging for some people. I haven't used a bidet, so I can't speak to that, but she is a huge fan of that. And I think a lot of people are. Um, so again, I feel like, oh, using an electric toothbrush, which I just recently started using an electric toothbrush, and I love them. Love them. Not necessarily for like energy conservation, but my teeth feel so much more clean. And then when I went actually for my cleaning, the hygienist was blown away with how clean my teeth were. So just a little plug there for electric toothbrush. Let's see, dressing. So again, organizing your closet so clothes are easy to reach, but I would say too, so that you don't have too many clothes. It's overwhelming to look in a closet, I find, like, unless you're Oprah, I guess, to have too much selection and just it's hard to kind of navigate a closet that's just too full. Sit down to get dressed, use long handled shoehorns or reachers or other devices to help get you dressed if needed. That's an area that we would use home care for, to have someone come into the home if necessary to help get a person dressed, because actually dressing and grooming take a lot of energy. And so depending on where you're at with your recovery, that can be a helpful aid too. I mean, if you have a family member who can help you with those things, that's ideal. But if not, then it can be helpful to have home care. Wear comfortable, easy to put on clothing, and, just minimize, I guess, things that, like, having said that, I had a patient who really wanted to wear earrings. That was really important to her. And so we kind of made a plan that so that she would be able to wear earrings every day. What's important to you, and then that also would probably make you feel better too, to have your earrings in, and that would give you some energy. So laundry, I kind of talked about that, wearing a backpack. Laundry can be a heavy job as well, and I had quite a few patients who had trouble doing laundry after they had chemo, because it affects the sensation in the fingers and toes sometimes. So sitting to do the laundry, like, or to do the folding and the sorting and stuff like that, having help if you can have help. Just taking one piece or fewer pieces out of the washer because they can be quite heavy to put them in the dryer and only do what's necessary. And so, you know, sorry if this is too much information, but I reuse my clothes. I don't just wear clothes once and then put them in the laundry. Why? Because I don't want to do so much laundry. Obviously, don't I don't reuse certain items of my clothes, but a sweatshirt or my jeans, I'll rewear those things. Now, my daughter hasn't quite caught on to that yet, even though I've told her. But so she has this ginormous bag of laundry that she has to do every week, which is fine because she does it. She's independent with that. Um, but you can simplify things that way too, is just reuse a few items and then you don't have as much laundry to do. And then of course, back to the old ironing. Don't iron. Just don't iron. Um, House cleaning. Now that's a thing that is usually pretty challenging for people to do after surgery or even seniors or people with low mobility. So hiring cleaning to be done if you can afford that, having some friends or family help you. Now, sometimes that's hard too because who wants to clean? And then just also simplifying that. If you were used to vacuuming and, mopping your floors every week, well, maybe you don't do that every week now. Maybe you do it every 2 weeks or you vacuum more than you mop. Maybe you have somebody do the mopping for you. Because that can be a really high energy task that, while it does need to be done eventually, probably doesn't have to be done every week. Um, using a long handled duster to dust things, automatic toilet bowl cleaner. Um, let's see, store cleaning supplies where they're easy to reach and easy to access. And then this is where it would be important to alternate those heavy tasks with the light tasks or to do a heavy task, just one of them in the morning. And then I guess that's the other thing too, is like not to have to do all the cleaning all on one day or all on one morning, is to separate it throughout the week so that you're doing a little bit here and there. So then your home isn't like spotless all at once one day, but it is clean because you're continually doing little bits here and there. And then, you're saving your energy, but your home is getting clean. And one thing for the bed that can be a helpful tip is instead of using a fitted sheet, if that's hard to get the sheet on and off, which lots of times it is for lots of people, is to use a flat sheet on the mattress instead of a fitted sheet because then it's easier to take on and put on and to take off. Let's see, cooking. So plan meals ahead, just do simple meals, frozen veg. I already talked about that. Frozen meals, sit down while preparing, using electric appliances. So maybe microwave versus cooking something on the stove, electric mixer, electric can opener. Using a damp cloth or something that we like called Dyson, but actually I found some silicone mats at the dollar store. So putting either a damp cloth or the silicone underneath a bowl or a plate to keep it from moving around, that can be helpful. Ordering groceries online and either having them delivered or picked up or to pick up, that can save a lot of energy. Instead of going to the grocery store and walking the aisles and picking up all the items that you want. That takes a lot of energy for a lot of people. Let's see. You could ask family members or friends to freeze you meals. So then you have meals in the freezer that you would just have to take out and either heat up or cook in the oven. And um, built up handled utensils. So sometimes that can be more comfortable for people is to have like a thicker handle on whatever utensil you're using. That can be easier to use. And then they have special knives like with a handle up top. Oops, I just hit the mic. Up top of the knife, or even like a rocker knife can be helpful for cutting. So, and then there's, lots of places you can buy pre-made meals now. So that's fairly easy for people to access if they don't feel like cooking. Um, and then transportation. So if you're still driving, which you might not be able to if you're doing treatments or, depending on what injury or surgery you've had, then to do errands with somebody else, to take a taxi, it's hard to take a bus because lots of times you're having to walk far to get to the bus stop or to get to your destination. But lots of people will Uber or just have a friend help them with stuff like that. So basically, the whole point of energy conservation, and this is basically centered more around what I would do as an occupational therapist, but I think the principles are the same for people. Like as a parent, I am way more fatigued than I ever had been before I had kids. And so for me, I think about these principles for that too. Like I'm a tired parent. How can this be helpful for me? Now, are you going to want to sit in the shower with a shower seat? Maybe not, but I'll tell you right now, I did for both my pregnancies because I was feeling heavy and tired and I sat down to shower and it was helpful. I enjoyed that. And I will sit down sometimes in the kitchen to prep things or I find that these and my whole alphabetizing of spices or not ironing or just kind of letting go of having like a perfectly clean house, I think that can do wonders for our energy level. And then, I think also contributing to that is like our mental chatter. There's a lot of coaching clients I've been talking to lately that have a lot of that too, the inner critic, that can really affect our energy as well. So that's probably a topic for a different day. This is more like physical and environment. What can we do around us to help support our energy? So if you have any questions or any comments, I'd love to hear them. And if you like this podcast, then please rate, review, and subscribe to it. That helps me create more content for you. And any ideas that you have for content, I'd love to hear it because then I can make something that you're really interested in hearing. So until next time, I will see you again on the Creatively Curious podcast.